next interesting, very interesting session of medical management. Without medical management, nothing can be told. So pharmacology and trials. So in this context, I would call upon my friend, colleague, and Dr. Sandeep Bansal. He is a consultant cardiologist, eminent from Safdarjung Hospital, Delhi. And then Dr. Sangram Biradar, he is a professor, Department of Medicine, MR Medical College, Gulbarga, Karnataka. Then Dr. Rohit Modi, he is my good friend, cardiologist from Hindu Sabha Hospital, Mumbai. Then Dr. Alok Roy, he is a senior consultant in medicine, past chairman of the CG State Association, API Association. So over to the eminent chairpersons to start the session. We are running short of time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahapatra, for this that kind introduction. I would request Dr. Piyush Jain to kindly make his presentation. Dr. Piyush Jain, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Bansal. It has been a pleasure listening to all these stalwarts. So coming on to the treatment part, and my job is difficult because I got nothing much to offer here. Let me start straight away because we are running short of time, and I will be speaking a few minutes on the role of diuretics in heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. This is an overview of outcome-based randomized controlled trials in heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. That does not include only diuretics, but all the major studies that have been done. And as you can see here, with the ARB, with the ACE inhibitor, with another ARB, irbesartan, even an MRA like spironolactone, ERNI, and diuretics. Of course, we know we don't have any outcome studies with the heart failure with reduced ejection fraction or preserved ejection fraction, but these are mostly negative studies. A recent silver lining is that we have Emperor preserved trial which has shown some benefit of empagliflozin versus placebo, but that's not my topic for today. I'm sure somebody else is going to cover that up. So I will be actually focusing my attention on diuretics. There is nothing much to say about the loop diuretics, which are the standard treatment for decongestion of patient with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. So despite the advances in the treatment of heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, we know all these advances occurring over the past 10 years or so. The treatment of the heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, this largely remains empiric, with some recent evidence of improvement in the outcomes with SGLT2 inhibitor, empagliflozin. So current therapy of heart failure with preserved ejection fraction focuses on treatment of fluid retention with diuretics and treatment of comorbidities such as hypertension, anemia, atrial fibrillation, and ischemia if it is demonstrated. But there are limited data to support these common sense options. Without discussing smaller studies, let me go on to a slightly more promising aspect of the diuretic therapy, that is the mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist. So what is the potential role? Now, the potential role for the MRAs or the mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist in heart failure with preserved ejection fraction is based on their success in heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, where it has been demonstrated in RAIL and other trials, and the ability of these agents to improve the LV preload as well as afterload, and to reduce the myocardial fibrosis. Now, this is an important point because myocardial fibrosis is thought to be central to the pathophysiology of heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. Now, there are studies in elderly patients with hypertensive heart disease and diastolic dysfunction, which suggest that spironolactone does improve myocardial relaxation, reduces left ventricular hypertrophy and aortic stiffness, and improves the functional capacity. Now, based on these observations, and the hypothesis generated from there, spironolactone has been tested in 2 studies in heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, ELDO-DHF and TOPCAT trials. And I'm going to discuss these 2 trials only. So what about ELDO-DHF trial? This ELDO-DHF trial was a trial consisting of recruitment of 422 patients. They were ambulatory patients with heart failure. They were symptomatic class 2 to class 4. Their EF was more than or equal to 50%, and they had evidence of diastolic dysfunction. So the outcome of this trial was that spironolactone improved the LV diastolic dysfunction, but did not affect the maximal exercise capacity, patient symptoms, or the quality of life. This was published in 2013 in JAMA, and it was a negative trial. So what about TOPCAT? Now, TOPCAT was a much larger trial consisting of 3,445 patients with symptomatic heart failure with preserved ejection fraction with an LVEF of more than or equal to 45%. And the trial was a multicentric trial in the North and South America, as well as in some Russia and some Central Asian countries. So they were randomized either to spironolactone 15 milligram to 45 milligram daily or placebo in a double-blinded manner. The idea was that of the trial was to test the hypothesis that MRA spironolactone would reduce morbidity and mortality in symptomatic patients with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. The primary outcome was a composite of death from CV causes, aborted cardiac death, hospitalization for heart failure. And the mean follow-up was 3.3 years. So if you look at this combined endpoint, at a mean of 3.3 years, there was no significant difference in the death from CV causes, aborted cardiac arrest, or heart failure hospitalization. 18.6% for spironolactone, 20.4% for the placebo, with a hazard ratio of 0.89, which, however, did not reach statistical significance. But if you look at these two components of the primary outcome, it was found that there was a statistically significant reduction in the time to first hospitalization with spironolactone, and there was about 17% reduction in the time to first hospitalization with spironolactone. So one of the components of the primary endpoints was significantly reduced with spironolactone. The other one, that is a death, was not reduced. This is what it is. So if you really look at all the results of TOPCAT, the primary endpoints, the components of the primary endpoints, and the secondary endpoints and their components, the only component in the primary outcome was reduction in the hospitalization for heart failure, death from any cause, hospitalization for any reason, myocardial infarction, stroke. None was reduced as a result of institution of spironolactone therapy. Since the combined primary endpoint was not achieved, it was also considered to be a largely negative trial. But then post hoc analysis showed that there were some geographic variations in the primary outcome. The one post hoc analysis found there was a disparity of results across the geographical regions, with a subsequently lower hospitalization and CV mortality rates, which were exactly similar to controls in patients who were enrolled in countries like Russia and Georgia as compared to other countries. So it is possible that these patients who were enrolled in Russia and Georgia, they were actually not be having heart failure to begin with. Secondly, further patients on spironolactone in these regions were also more likely to have no significant change in blood pressure, and they were less likely to have a rise in the serum creatinine and serum potassium. So analysis of spironolactone metabolites rather recently also suggested that many such patients may actually not have been compliant with the study drug. So for these reasons, it was suggested that TOPCAT data from these regions be ignored. A non-pre-specified post hoc analysis compared the outcomes from Russia and Georgia versus data from US, Canada, Argentina, and Brazil. And that showed that the data from US, Canada, Argentina, and Brazil showed a significant benefit for the combined primary outcome of CV death and heart failure hospitalization, with 18% reduction, which reached the statistical significance. So what do you make out of this? If you really believe that the data from Russia and Georgia was not robust enough, then it may be sufficient for some of us to start using mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist like spironolactone in patients with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. And barring empagliflozin, this is the only positive lead that we have on outcomes. Of course, I'm saying that we should not write off loop diuretics because they remain the mainstay of therapy, particularly in patients who have got HFrEF with rather more acute presentation. So some advocate spironolactone in HFrEF, but it is not approved by regulatory bodies as such, and it is not recommended by the practice guidelines also. The other point that goes against using spironolactone right and left in patients with HFrEF is that the greatest potential benefit of spironolactone occurs in patients with the lowest LVEF, that is something between 45 to 50%, suggesting that HFrEF in lower LVEF range might behave more like heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. And that is borne out by the observation that many patients who have HFrEF to begin with, they go into heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. It may be basically a continuum also. So I finish here.